What's up, you guys? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Fit Women's Weekly podcast. Whether you are just getting your day started or it is starting to wind down, I hope that it is going on the right foot and that you have a smile on your face and you have accomplished something for yourself. Yes, you can accomplish something for yourself even if you're just getting started. Maybe it's just making yourself the perfect cup of coffee or going on that morning walk to just be by yourself. I actually just finished a run. It's been a slow go at getting back into running for me, more mentally so than physically. My knee is, I would say, about 95% back to doing what it was doing before. So that feels really good. But for any of you guys that have taken time off from fitness, whether it is strength training, running, whatever it is that your preferred method of training is, you know it's kind of hard to start building things back up. Not even so much the physical part of it, but the mental. So for my running, I've been really smart this go around. I started with 3 miles max, and then I've slowly been building onto that each time just to build my mileage back up. And I have found that one, it is humid, and that definitely is playing in because it's the dead of summer. This morning was 91% humidity while I was running. So that does play a part, but more so, it's just the mental game of it because I run the same route most mornings when I go running. And so I know where I stopped before, and I so bad just want to be like, this is good enough. This is what I did before. This is good enough. So it's not even like I'm physically exhausted. It's just playing that mental game of being like, no, if you want to get back to where you were or build even upon that, you got to break through the barriers. You got to progress yourself forward. And that means when you hit that place of where you were before, you gotta go a little bit farther. So it's been quite the mind you know what, but I did add a few more miles. In fact, Tuesdays when I do my podcast recordings, sometimes I walk, sometimes I run. It's not always a structured running day for me, at least the past couple of weeks. So today I was like, no, I'm gonna do this. So I just consider actually running a milestone, and then to break through what I did on my run last Thursday, I was like, yes, all right, I'm feeling good. And so you also have to remind yourself, yes, during the moment, it's hard to break through that wall and just kind of give up when you know it's enough, enough is enough. But when you want to build onto your fitness and you do continue on, when you finish, you get to go yes, I did it. And so that's kind of what this morning was for me. So that felt really, really good. And now I get to hang out with you guys, which is just my favorite time of the day. So just a quick reminder that I love doing this podcast for you guys. It is free content. I answer your questions. So if you ever have a question that you want answered on this podcast, all you have to do is ask. And there's about a 95% chance that I will answer your question right here. So because of that and my drive, I'm asking for one thing to make it not so free. And that is either to subscribe if you're listening to a platform that you can subscribe on, or leave a review. If you are watching this on YouTube, obviously you can't leave a review, but you can comment down below. And every comment helps to get Fit Women's Weekly out in front of other people. So even just saying something like, oh my gosh, I love today's episode, or oh my goodness, I've been injured too, and here's how I'm doing. Just leave your thought. It takes about 20 seconds, and it could make a really big impact. And if you want to support Fit Women's Weekly podcast in other ways, there are ways down in the description. You can try Fit Women's Weekly Live for free, which is my premier online training studio where I go live every single day. You can do something as simple as buying a cup of coffee so that I can continue to provide this content. Or, just follow me on all the socials. If you're on YouTube right now, make sure to follow me on Instagram. If you are listening to this on iTunes, follow me over on YouTube and Instagram, all the stuff. All right, you guys, let's jump in to today's episode. We are going to do a workout of the day. I've just started putting it in my notes, so I actually remember to share a workout of the day with you guys. And then our topic of the day is, what are macronutrients? Why are macronutrients so important? I've talked about macros before in the past. I've talked about how to calculate your macros, but I don't know if I've actually done a breakdown of what are macronutrients and why is each one so important. So that's what we're gonna do in today's episode. So first off, the workout of the day. This was actually yesterday's workout of the day for Fit Women's Weekly Live. It was a burner. So Mondays here in our studio are interval cardio days, and then we start our strength program on Tuesdays. So for Interval Monday, it was body weight only, and it was an EMOM workout, meaning every minute on the minute. So what happens with that is on minute 1, 60 seconds begin. You have 60 seconds to complete the reps of what I'm about to explain. And then whatever's left of that minute is your rest time. When that minute is up, a brand new minute begins and you move on to exercise 2 and you continue on like that. And we have 7 minutes worth of things that we did for 4 rounds through. And then we did a 10-minute finisher at the end to work on our summer shred challenge and our assessment workout that we're doing. So the main workout, the EMOM that I just explained, minute number 1 is 8 prisoner squats with 2 lunge jumps. So you're gonna do a prisoner squat down to the ground, stand up, immediately do lunge jump, and that is 1 rep. And you're gonna do that for 8 reps. Minute number 2 is 3 rounds of 16 flutter kicks and 16 mountain climbers. Minute number 3 is 30 squats. Very basic, right? Minute number 4 is a combo move of 7 regular push-ups and 7 pike push-ups. So with this, you have 1 minute to do a regular push-up, walk your hands towards your feet, do a pike push-up, that's 2 reps, walk your hands back out to regular push-up, do a regular push-up, and repeat those alternating moves, regular push-up and pike push-up for 14 total reps. Or for a more advanced version, it was 8 push-ups with a donkey kick. So you're gonna do a push-up, walk your feet in a little bit, and jump up into a handstand for 8 reps. That one got real spicy. My shoulders were dead by the end. Minute number 5, so moving on, is you're gonna start off with a burpee with 6 push-ups. So you're gonna jump to the ground, do 6 push-ups, jump back up. You're gonna jump back to the ground, do 5 push-ups, jump up to the ground, 4 push-ups, jump up, 3 push-ups, jump up, 2 push-ups, jump up, and then you'll end with a normal burpee, which is 1 push-up and jump up. And that gets really spicy as well. And then minute number 6 is we changed this one during the workout to 10 reps of a single leg lemon squeeze per leg plus a leg raise. So single leg lemon squeeze on the right, then on the left, legs back out together, raise them up. That is 1 rep, and you would do that for a total of 10 rounds. And then minute number 7 is complete rest. So you do get a 1 minute of rest before repeating that, and we did that for 4 rounds. And if you're like, oh my goodness, that sounds quite technical, it's really not, especially if you do it with me following along. So if you're up for the challenge, because I will admit this workout was a challenge, you can click on the link in the description for Fit Women's Weekly Live, sign up. Again, it is free to try it out, and you can actually do this workout with me, rep for rep, with me explaining, okay, next minute, this is what we're gonna do. Go ahead and get ready. That way you don't have to write down all of this stuff on a piece of paper. You just hit play and we will knock it out together. What I personally love about my workouts compared to most other online programs is that everybody else does 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. Everything is very timed based. With mine, it's really not like that. So, and I do also explain during the workout, if you can't hit these numbers, what should you do instead? And I give some alternative exercises if these moves are too hard. So yeah, go try it, knock it out with me. I have the hour-long version of this and I have a 30-minute version of this. Again, Fit Women's Weekly Live, go click and try it out. All right, and if you do it, let me know. Even if you don't do it through Fit Women's Weekly Live, if you just wrote it down, you can go ahead and rewind, write it all down real fast. Let me know, take a picture of yourself, do a video, and tag me, Kendall Boyle Fitness, over on Instagram. Speaking of social media, are you guys into the thread thing? I can't decide if I like it or not. When I think about it, I'm enjoying it, and I am over there writing from time to time. But it's kind of one of those things, I just want to do it for 5 or 10 minutes a day and move on. And I feel like it's a platform where most people are like, look what I had for lunch. Look what I'm having for a snack. What are your thoughts on this? So I'm not completely sold on it yet, but I definitely am over there, so make sure to find me. And it's obviously my Instagram name since it's all attached, Kendall Boyle Fitness. So if you're loving it, let me know. And if there's certain topics or things that you would like me to cover over on Threads, let me know that too, because I am not a Twitter person. So me trying to figure out exactly the kind of content to put on a new social media platform, it's learning a new thing, right? I've tried Twitter in the past and I was just like, this is boring. I'm not here for it. But I'm always, I don't want to miss the times either. I understand that is part of the job. Okay, but now let's move on. What are macronutrients? Macronutrients, you guys, are the nutrients that we need in larger quantities that provide us with energy. So you have macronutrients and then you have micronutrients, which are the things that we need in smaller amounts and mostly make up vitamins and minerals. They're very, very important to consume. Obviously, being in a deficit of a micronutrient can be really harmful for our health. I think the first one that comes to most of us is scurvy, which is a vitamin C deficiency, but we all know being short in zinc, vitamin D, calcium, all of those things can really, really, really be harmful for our health. But when it comes to body composition changes, we've really started talking more about macronutrients over the years, which I find really interesting. When I was a teenager, we never talked about macronutrients. It wasn't really a thing. It was just calories and calories in versus calories out. We talked about carbohydrates, but it was more from a weight loss stance of the Atkins diet. It wasn't really an understanding of why we need them or maybe why we don't need them. So I actually like that nutrition is becoming more of a forefront for us, and we're able to educate one another more on what it is and what they do for our bodies so that we can create a healthier relationship when it comes to food. If I had known when I was 18 what macronutrients did for our bodies, I may have not gone down the really dangerous hole that I went through when it came to my eating disorder and just my diversion towards foods as I was going through my 20s all those years. I may have not been so afraid of carbohydrates if I knew what they were actually doing for our bodies. So I think that's really the important thing to point out before we jump too far in, is that macronutrients are what we need in large amounts for our body, which means we need all of the macronutrients. It is very, very dangerous to eliminate all of one group. Now, does that mean that we can avoid certain types of a macronutrient? Absolutely, and I'll discuss that here in just a second. But don't be afraid of any of these that we're gonna talk about, because they are all so important for different reasons. They are not interchangeable, even though a lot of brands will lead you to think that to try to get you on something like the Atkins diet or the keto diet. So again, just something to keep in mind. So the other thing, there's a couple of different things that I want to chat before we actually break down the top 3 that we're going to be talking about. Some people claim, and it's not some, it is true, alcohol can sometimes be called the 4th macronutrient because it is not carbs, fats, or proteins. It's a different thing in and of itself, and it does contain calories. 1 ounce has 7 calories, and because the body doesn't actually need it, and in fact it's poison to our body, that's why it's not actually considered a macronutrient. So that was kind of interesting to me when I was going through my nutrition education. And then the US Drug and Food Administration also classifies fiber, which we need about 20 to 25 grams of per day, and water as macronutrients. Water obviously is the key to life. We can only live for so long, like a couple of days, like 48 hours or something like that without water. So obviously that is a really, really powerful nutrient for our body, but those two aren't things that I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to be talking about the ones that provide direct energy for our bodies, and those include carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. And as I was kind of doing a little bit of research for this episode to make sure I don't leave anything out that I wanted to cover, I really love the way that Cedars-Sinai put it. And they said, carbohydrates give your body energy, while protein helps rebuild and repair your body's tissue, and fat is important for satiety, that's such a word, satiety, that's such a hard word for me to say, or obviously we know feeling full, hormone balance, and helping your body absorb certain vitamins like vitamin A, D, E, and K. So going through that low-fat phase back in the 90s when I was a kid, not such a smart idea. It led people to overeat, but also be deficient in the healthy fats that we actually need. Eating fat does not make our bodies fat. 2 different concepts here, and having fat in our diet is so important for having healthy hormone balance, healthy vitamins balance, healthy skin, healthy hair, healthy cycles, and obviously feeling full from one meal to the next. And I'll talk a little bit about that here in just a second when we talk about carbohydrates. Okay, so carbohydrates, also most lovingly called carbs, are your body's primary fuel source. They provide energy for your muscles, your central nervous system during movements and exercise, and sugar, which is just another name for carbohydrates, is your preferred energy for your brain. Now, proteins can go through a process where they can be broken down through ketogenesis and be converted into ketones, which can then be used for energy instead of carbohydrate. But that's a lot of work for your body. And at the end of the day, carbohydrates is the preferred source of energy. It is fast acting, and that is why it is so important before a high intense workout and after an intense workout. You want to get a simple source of carbohydrates for energy. So we're talking about 30 minutes to 2 hours before a workout. You want to have some kind of carb source in your body to help you get through that workout. And then afterwards, when your muscles are depleted of glycogen, that is how glucose is stored in the body, you want to get another easy carbohydrate that can be broken down so that you can replenish those energy sources for energy, but also to help with recovery as well. The things when it comes to carbohydrates, obviously carbs have a bad rap nowadays, but it's not that carbohydrates are bad for us. It's the type of carbs that have become available because of the processed food industry and how easy it is to get our hands on not so great for us carbohydrate sources. I'm talking about processed sugar, treats, cookies, cakes, super processed foods, chips, those sorts of foods. But things like fruit, honey, some maple syrup, dates, even nuts, because everybody thinks like nuts are a great source of protein. Yes and no. Do they have protein? Yes. But they also have a lot of fat, and they do also have a lot of carbohydrates. So that is something to think about as well. And then homemade breads, sourdough bread. I really love wraps for a quick protein source. You can do a wrap with a little bit of like deli meat in there. Oh, it is so good. So it's just important to make sure you're getting the right type of carbohydrate to help fuel you and to make you feel your best. Now, there's always rules that can be broken. If you're doing a really long endurance event, sometimes it's just important of getting down what you can get down. So if I'm doing an ultra, or if I'm going out on a really long trail run, then I'm gonna pack simple carbohydrates. I will pack some processed, I like pretzels when I run, I like Swedish fish, I like jelly beans, those kind of things that when my digestive system is closed down a little bit because everything's going towards making the run happen, I want something that I can just stomach easily. So there are always those little caveats, but for the most point, obviously you want to stay away from the processed stuff. The second macronutrient is protein, and protein is essential in lots of processes in the body. It provides structure to tissue. That includes cell membranes, organs, muscle, hair, skin, nails, bones, tendons, ligaments, and even blood. Proteins are involved in metabolic and hormonal and enzyme systems and helps to maintain an acid-base balance in our bodies. Our bodies are so particular, especially with our acid base, our pH, and even just the slightest bit going in one direction versus the other can be really, really harmful to us in the long run. So getting in enough protein can make sure that this happens. You guys know I also talk about protein as being the body composition macro, where if you're trying to lose weight, you need to make sure that you're getting enough protein into your system so that your body knows that you still have the building blocks to help keep your muscles happy, and in return, you want to burn your body fat. You want to make sure that you're holding on to those muscles as much as possible, and you're also making sure that your metabolism is staying healthy and running as well. And then also on that same front, just like fat helps keep you fuller longer, so does protein. Protein is actually broken down in your stomach by your stomach acid, and it takes a while for your stomach acid to break things down, which is why it helps keep you fuller longer. So that is also something to think about. So for your hormones, for your body, for your cell structure, for your overall health and wellness, and for your body composition. So and we'll talk about this in a second. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself as far as I was gonna say, how much do you need? I know that I've covered it before and it sounds like a broken record, but I still get kicked back a lot, so we are gonna talk about it. And then the third macronutrient that is vital is fat, like I talked about. Fat is vital for the body as an energy reserve, right? That is what fat is. It's so that if we go through a period of famine, all of a sudden we gotta walk across the country, or we're in a period where we can't get our hands on the food that we need, we can turn to our fat reserves for energy. I read a long time ago that most people, if you're at a healthy weight, have enough fat to literally be able to walk you from one side of the country to another. I don't know if that's exactly true, but we do have a lot more energy than we think of. We just sometimes don't know how to tap into it. So that's why you hear a lot about runners who go into a fat energizing training program where they learn how to tap into their fat reserves versus tapping into your carb or your glycogen reserves first, because our bodies aren't always very good at using one source of fuel over the other. And that comes from going at a lower pace, which quote unquote is that fat burning zone, and getting your body adjusted to that. So that when you do go at a higher intensity, you can tap into both. It makes it a little bit more efficient. So yeah, we have a lot more calories reserved in our body than we realize it to help us do some pretty cool things. So it's also there for insulation, protection of your organs, and the absorption and transport of those fat-soluble vitamins that I was talking about. We have brown fat and we have white fat. That should be an episode for a whole nother day. I will talk about that, but that's coming into insulation and metabolic health as well. But yeah, you need all three, you guys. So let's talk about real fast, how much of each one do you actually need? And I'm not going to talk about how to figure out what your requirements are. I've actually done an entire podcast before on figuring out what your macronutrient should be. So I'll try to remember, I promise, to put the link to that particular episode down in the show notes. But in that episode, I talk about how to calculate your calories and then how to use that number to calculate exactly how much of each one you need. So just a quick little breakdown for protein requirements. If you are sedentary, the suggestion is 0.8 grams of protein per pound of weight that you are. So if you weigh 100 pounds, that is 80 grams of protein that is recommended that you get per day. Now, most of us are very active. If you listen to this podcast, I'm gonna guess that you work out in some capacity, whether you're a runner, a lifter, whatever the case may be. And for that, you need to make sure that you're getting enough protein to help your body recover. And if you are trying to get stronger, you gotta have enough protein to actually build. Your body can't build muscle from nothing. It needs the amino acids from full protein sources. So for that, you're gonna have to up the protein and go from 0.8 to about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So that one's really easy. If you weigh 150 pounds, you need 150 grams of protein. And I know that I get pushback of being like, but that's a lot. But if you are willing to actually start putting in the work to plan it out, it's really not that hard. 150 grams of protein over 3 meals is 50 grams of protein. However, most of us have 3 meals and a snack or two, right? So really you should divide it up, I recommend, into 4 meals and then split that fourth meal into 2 different snacks. So what is, let me do this a little bit easier. So if you are supposed to be getting 160 grams of protein into 4 meals, that's 40 grams of protein per meal, right? So for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that's 40 grams of protein. And then if you have 2 snacks, that's 20 grams of protein each, which could be as simple as a protein shake can get you up to 30 grams of protein, super simple. So it's really not that hard, but you do have to sit down and you have to plan it out a little bit, divide it up, and play with your ounces per meal. If you're normally eating 50 grams, or 50, no, blah, 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 blah. If you're normally eating 5 ounces of chicken per meal, but that's not helping you hit your protein goal by the end of the day, play around with your numbers and try to eat 6 ounces of protein in one single meal. Don't even try it, that's pretty simple. And when it comes to eating your meal, start with your protein first so that you know you're getting that, and then finish the rest of your plate off so that you're not filling up on all that fiber and getting full and then looking at your chicken going, oh my God, I can't eat another bite of this, right? Because you don't need to be in the Clean Platers Club, but make sure to get your protein in. And then as far as fat is concerned, it should be about 20 to 35% of your daily calories. That number depends specifically more on like what your training is for, because your carbohydrates are then whatever's left. And it's kind of recommended that you get in about 40% of your daily calories from carbohydrates. But again, that number changes based on your training. Are you training for an ultra race? Are you training for something big with your fitness? If that's the case, then you're gonna have to have more carbs than someone who's not. And so if you're having more carbohydrates, that means you're gonna have less fat. If you're gonna have less carbohydrates, based on what you're training or you're not training, then we're gonna increase your fat a little bit more. So those things play together. Your carbohydrate or your protein intake is pretty solid, right? But your fat and your carbs, we can mess around with, but that's the general requirements as far as the bracket should be. So 20 to 35% of your daily calories are from fat, and then the rest is carbohydrates. And then you're kind of maybe going, okay, well, what does that mean? So you would take, first we would figure out your protein. I'm not gonna go into this as much in depth as I did in the podcast that I talked about, but if you're supposed to eat 1,000 calories a day, which no one should be eating 1,000 calories per day, what you would then do is say, okay, I'm supposed to eat 100 grams of protein per day. Again, just making up that number. Each gram of protein has 4 calories. So you would take that 100 times 4 equals 400. So 400 of your 1,000 calories will be protein. So I'm gonna subtract that. Then I have 600 calories left. So then from 600 calories, if I know that 25% of those are gonna be fat, I would take 600 times 0.25 to figure what that is. That's your calories of fat that you're supposed to be eating, but that's not your grams, right? So each gram of fat has 9 calories. It has a little bit more than carbohydrates and protein. So then I would divide that number of calories that I'm eating of fat, divide that by 9, and that gives me how many grams I'm gonna be eating. And then I also now have my total calories left that will be focused on my carbohydrates. I would divide that by 4 because 1 gram of carbs has 4 calories, and bam, I now have how many grams of protein, how many grams of fat, and how many grams of carbohydrates I am supposed to eat. And all 3 of those are important. And then once I recommend you starting to track, we've talked about tracking before and how important it is, I would give it a solid 2 weeks at least to play around with those numbers that you have set for yourself and see if they're working. Those are obviously just estimates, and there is no based on your genetics, based on your fitness, based on your goals. You might not see the preferred results that you want from those, and that's okay, but you have to give it a real shot for at least 2 weeks before then you turn around and try to make tweaks. But yeah, those are your macronutrients. Those are the things that it does for you. And you do not want to skip out on anything. It's really easy to want to do that because of the society that we live in, where it's all about either high fat, high protein, either way, super low carbs. But carbs are not the enemies. It's just about getting the right type of carbohydrate in. Just like it's important to get the right kinds of fats in, saturated versus unsaturated. Stay away from the hydrogenated fats or the man-made fats and trans fats, and you'll be good to go, you guys. The good thing is there's really not a bad type of protein. Protein is protein, right? You do want to make sure that you're getting a complete source of protein. There's only so many different types. Like, we can make some within our body, but then some are essential. Some proteins we have to get from the food that we eat. And this is really hard, more so for vegetarians, because a lot of plant-based proteins don't have all the essential all the essential proteins that we need. So you just want to make sure that you're getting a variety, which is why it's important. Like, if you're focused on lentils, make sure to pair lentils with rice, or make sure that you're eating oatmeal and beans. You're just always wanting to make sure to pair it with other things to make sure that you get the complete protein that you need to help your body be its best. Yes? All right, you guys, that's today's episode. If you found that helpful, remember, let me know. Your payment for this podcast is to subscribe, leave a comment or a testimonial, and then follow me over on the other platforms. My goal is to get to the 4,000 follower mark, because you guys remember I'm starting brand new with my social media over the past 6 months now. And I would like to hit that 4,000 mark by mid-August, and that could come from you guys helping me out. So make sure, go over to Instagram, hit that follow button, and also remember, I want to answer your questions. I want this to be your podcast. So if you have questions, whether it's fitness, nutrition, mindset, whatever the case may be, something maybe even personal to me and my story, let me know and I will answer it on a future episode. All right, you guys, and make sure to check out the links down below. Sign up for Fit Women's Weekly Live, try it for free so you can do that EMOM workout with me, but also if you want to support the channel, there are other ways listed. All right, you guys,